I have come out with a tier list that is way too early that I believe is how the format will possibly go, with some possible mix-ups thrown in there. So big shout out to Daily Grind TCG for sponsoring this video, and let's go ahead and get to it. Okay, so here's how we're going to do it. We're going to just list the best decks that I believe is going to be the best decks, and these are in no particular order, and then we're going to talk about each one and why I think that they're the best deck. So to start, or one of the best decks, right? So to start off, we have the new structure deck Luffy. I just think that red is an absolutely insane card pool to have at your disposal on top of purple. His ability to ramp with cards like Thunder Bagua, that is active after he takes his first life, and then he also has access to Radical Beam and Guard Point on top of being a 6k leader. I think is very, very, very strong. With Kid from the new starter deck, the character Kid, I think Luffy, he's basically pretty much going to be a 7k leader, you know, on the second or third turn of the game for the rest of the match. So he's just going to be very, very, very hard to deal with. And we already know that Newgate is tough to deal with as a 6k leader, and Newgate takes his own life. Now I understand that he has access to 3 more cards than Luffy, but honestly, like not being able or not having to take your own life at the end of every turn might actually work better for Luffy, because doing 6k essentially 4 times, because he has 3 life and then last hit, is going to be pretty hard to do, especially with all the counters he has in hand, and just like how many defensive events he'll play on top of him just playing big characters and big bodies and swinging for big numbers every turn. I think he's going to be really hard to deal with, and one of the best decks. So Croc is going to be insane in my opinion. I made a video about this like a month ago, just kind of talking about some of the new support that we're getting in set 4. But Crocodile's ability, I was just playing a match where I was playing Blurple Croc and my friend was playing Croc, and he actually like blew me out of the water. Because he was playing a very, very, very control style version of Crocodile. I mean, the ability to literally every turn bounce pretty much everything you have on your opponent's board or bottom deck it is just something that I think is going to be incredibly strong into certain matchups. For example, I think Crocodile is going to be, I hate to say it, but almost an auto win into Rebecca, because Crocodile can play Red Rock to bottom deck their Kuzan if they're playing it, or their Isho. We can play 3000 Worlds. We can play the Soga King. We can play Sobbles. There's just Doflamingo. There's just a lot of cards on top of Crocodile's leader effect that can just control their board, and having 5 life is just really good at that. And then he also, instead of Doflamingo, the reason I have him higher ranked than Doflamingo is because he has the room inside of his deck to play the new cards that are going to be really good, especially the 10-drop Kaido, whereas Doflamingo has to play a lot of the 7 Warlords of the Sea, and he just doesn't have space. He barely has space for 3000 Worlds. He's not going to have space for Red Rock and 10-drop Kaido and 3000 Worlds. It's just not going to happen. Plus, I think Crocodile actually just beats Doflamingo straight up in the control style of playing. Also, Crocodile doesn't lose to Zoro anymore because of cards like 3000, or not 3000 Worlds, because of Dragon Twister, which bottom decks a 2 or less, and it's a plus 4000 counter. And then cards like Ulti, which is basically a better version of Robin, where with a Dawn Honor, she's a 3/4. Dawn Honor, when attacking, she bottom decks a 2 or less as well, or a 1 or less, I believe. One of the two. I think Dragon Twister is 1 or less, and then Ulti's 2 or less. Still really good. Doesn't lose to like the little weenie strategy anymore. As long as you draw at least one of those on curve, you can slow them down enough. Similar to Crocodile right here, I think Blurple Croc, there's definitely a lot of different choices you can have, and he's going to be the most tech. The reason I have him like right in the midst of the best decks is because Blurple Croc has access to the Ulti. Not Ulti, the page 1. I can't think of it. The starter, the searcher for the Animal Kingdom Pirates. It's a blue card. It's a 1/2. It's basically Perona, but for the Animal Kingdom Pirates, and it searches. And Blurple Crocodile has access to cards like Hell's Judgment, Blast Breath. It has access to cards like Thunder Bagua to help him ramp. He has access to all the blue cards I mentioned earlier, and then he also has searchable answers like 6 and 7 cost King. 9 cost Kaido if you're playing that, and then just other just generally like good cards. The searcher can also search for 2Ks and things like that. So he finally has answers to a lot of cards, and depending on how the matchup goes, if we only have to tech against like 1 or 2 decks, I think Blurple Croc might be slightly better than regular Croc because we have searchable answers that establish bodies on the field, not just bottom deck them, but like establish bodies that are answers to whatever the people are playing on top of the blue cards. So that's why I think it's going to be really good. Next, Rebecca. I think Rebecca is going to be one of the best decks, probably in the lower tier of the best decks, because she does have great matchups into like cards or decks like Zoro and Law and people like that. Even kind of like Doflamingo too, because of her ability to rush characters. So like, you know, Zoro's always going to have characters sideways. Doflamingo's always going to have characters sideways. So with Colosseum, the field spell, or the field spell, the the event, I think Rebecca is going to be really good at just like whittling cards from your hand while maintaining advantage on her end, while also being able to just KO cards. And then some of their cards, like you can just rest Colosseum and save them. So it's just like a lot of grind, a lot of recursion. And I just don't think the deck is going to like go away very easily, and I think it's going to be pretty good. The only reason I don't think it's going to be one of the best decks is because I think it doesn't really do well into Luffy or Newgate, and I also think it just loses to Crocodile because of 3,000 Worlds in Red Rock and just 10-drop Kaido just really hurts that deck. So next we're going to talk about is the new Doflamingo, the green purple Doflamingo. Now everyone is playing it with the film engine. I think it's very strong, especially with the addition to the 10 cost Doflamingo, that basically you cannot unrest up to 3 characters on your opponent's board, and then they don't refresh during the refresh phase. So like if you have their leader tapped and then they have 2 let's say they have 2 like big characters tapped, you can make them basically waste their entire turn by leaving them sideways, and they have pretty much no plays, and then next turn you can start swinging at it with like your Doflamingo and things like that. It's just a great way to like, honestly, it's a great way to like get back control of the board, on top of you playing cards like Guild Tsuru that Dawn -2 draws 2 cards, Punk Gibson, Hell's Judgment, stuff like that, Thunder Bagua if you want to ramp. With the film Luffy, there's just a lot of ways you could put pressure on their opponent's board and control how much life you take, especially with the events, especially with the film cards. Like they're just really good at swarming the board and just keeping control. I think this is probably going to be one of the best decks. If I did have to like say it right now, I would say this is probably going to be top 3, along with Luffy, and then possibly Crocodile. I think Crocodile is going to be really good. The thing is, Crocodile does have answers to the Doflamingo matchup. Like I said, we can play cards like Doflamingo, like the 7/7 from the structure deck that can bounce their Luffy, which is fine because it's a tempo play. I know they can just play it again, but it's a tempo play. We establish a body, they establish a body. That's totally fine. But if they waste their turn playing the Luffy, then they can't play the 10 cost Doflamingo. And then also we can like red rock the 10 cost Doflamingo. We can 3,000 Worlds, Guild Tsuru. We can 3,000 Worlds like Frankie. We can just do a lot of stuff. Like even on trigger, we can 3,000 Worlds the Nami searcher. There's a lot of answers for it, but I think this deck's gonna be really good. And I think it's gonna be really good into Zoro too, because of access to every single turn you have Punk Gibson or Hell's Judgment. It's not gonna take a lot of damage unless they want to. Same with Newgate. I think Newgate's always just going to be really strong, 6K, 6 life leader. The thing is, like, Crocodile doesn't really have a great matchup into Newgate, at least as currently constructed, because, like, we still have to use our Dawn to attack their leader, and controlling the board is only going to do so much when they have 15 cards in hand from us just not attacking and only controlling the board. So I think Newgate's still going to be pretty good. It's still going to be aggressive. It's still going to be annoying. It's always going to be, until they ban it, I think it's just going to be a really good deck in general. Not a lot of people have great answers for Newgate. I think maybe Luffy is probably going to be one of the best decks to beat it, and then possibly Doflamingo. But there's some other decks I'll talk about later on this list too that I think are going to be decent into him. And then Blurple Kaido is probably going to be the same thing as like Blurple Croc. He just has like a big toolbox with cards. He has access to 10-drop Kaido, which some people are playing. Some people are thinking it's better than the new 10-drop Kaido, but it has applications. We'll see how it goes, but That's why I think it's going to be pretty good. It has access to some of the best cards in the new set, and then also just a strong like top end like it always has, and its ability to ramp pretty quickly. I think it might honestly be better than Blurple Croc, but we'll see. We'll just see how the format goes. All right, so in the next tier of decks, I'm gonna go ahead and put Law as a meta contender. The reason I'm putting Law as a meta contender is because, like I said about Crocodile and Rebecca, that the more of those that are in the format, the better the chance that like Law is gonna have a harder times, honestly, like doing his shambles shenanigans. Also, we still have cards like Fire Fist that I think red decks are still gonna play. Jet Pistol red decks are still gonna play. There's just so many cards that just like really hurt Law, but I'm sure like Law is a very flexible deck that he can probably just play a different version of it that doesn't exactly lose to Fire Fist or Jet Pistol. There's not a lot of like actual good support that comes from the new OPO4, and maybe I think there's like one or two cards from the new structure deck, the captain structure deck. So I'm not gonna write him off as like bad, because like he still like he's like a very fast deck with a or not a fast deck, but he's a very explosive deck with a lot of like ability to plus off of like characters, and like have a lot of cards in hand and gain a lot of advantage. So I think he still will be like decent, but probably just not in like the top tier of decks, especially because like the only reason I even put him in the like in meta contenders is I think he's going to be pretty good into the new Luffy deck, because he just out tempos Luffy, and unlike Whitebeard, he just doesn't have a lot of cards in hand to like be able to combat that. So I think he's actually better into Luffy than he was into Whitebeard, and it just depends on how much Luffy we see, and he might honestly be decent into Croc depending on if we can get like a solid start or not. But I just think that like I just think that like he's just not going to be as tempo control as he once was. Same with Zoro. I think Zoro just like hard loses to Rebecca. Like I think Rebecca just like beats the crap out of Zoro. At least the weenie strategy we have now. Now again, some of these decks can adapt to these like new cards coming out and like just play different versions, because like Zoro can just play a more mid-range version, like kind of how he's playing now with like the Marcos and whatnot, but he can just play Teach now too, so it just doesn't like hard like they can't just like easily run over it with like Rebecca or something like that. So that's an option too, but I just think that like he has too many like there's just too many cards now that are going to be able to like just take him down. I think he's also going to be pretty good into the new into Luffy, but not as good as he's going. Like he's just not going to be. He's going to be very bad into the Doflamingo. He's going to be pretty bad into Rebecca, and I think he's going to be like okay into Newgate. So that's why I also have him in the meta contender as well. Isho is going to be interesting. We'll see how he kind of works out, but Isho, like his ability to like play a ton of defense and like restand, like Hawkins will always restand essentially like at least twice or possibly three times, like if he gets his effect off, can be good, but like it feels like everything he does is kind of mid, to be honest with you. Like I think he's a cool leader, and I think he's an interesting idea, but green and black don't really have a whole lot of synergy. I don't even think he can use. I think the 10-drop Dofi is also leader locked behind a Warlord, so I don't think that Isho can use him. I could be wrong though, but Isho, he's interesting. Like you can like restand your queens and whatnot, but I don't know. He might be like decent into like certain decks. I haven't really played a whole lot of Isho into like other variants of. I've just been playing basically like the Blurples and then Crocodile. I played a little bit of Doflamingo on the sim, but I've been having a hard time beating like some of those decks with Isho, so I think he's going to be interesting depending on the meta and like depending on the deck list, but not going to be one of the best decks. And then Law, I don't think Law is going to be that good, to be honest with you. I've been playing some on the simulator, and they've been playing cards like the starter deck, or not the starter deck, the OPO1 Brook from like the Dawn Minus, the one that people are playing sometimes now, and then they're also playing Gordon and things like that, and they can make good use out of his leader effect, but like you're basically never getting to 10 Dawn, and you're always just like, I feel like he just loses so hard to like so many things. Like he loses to Doflamingo, I think he hard loses to Rebecca, I think he just loses super hard to Newgate like outright. So like Law, he's never going to be at 10 Dawn if he uses his leader effect like a lot, and a lot of people are trying to use his leader effect a lot to like gain advantage, but like Dawn -3 is a lot. If it was Dawn -2 it'd be a lot better, but Dawn -3 is like really tough. So I don't think he's going to be as good as like the set one law either. And then Katakuri, I think is going to be good still because I think he has a good matchup into Croc and Blurple, like the Blurples and whatnot, because his access to 10 cost Big Mom. And I'm gonna go ahead and put like I'm gonna put Yamato and like I forgot to put them on here too, but like Yamato and like Charlotte Linlin, because they have access to cards like 10 drop Big Mom. I think that's gonna be really good because even at like it can get red rocked, but like it already got its effect off, so like it's already a 2 life swing. And sometimes that's like very important if they, especially like if they drop multiple of them. We don't always have red rock, so I think it's going to be pretty good. It's not going to be good into Newgate as always. I don't think it's going to be that good into this Doflamingo deck. I think it's going to be really bad in the Doflamingo deck, actually, now that I think about it. But I think it's going to be really good into this Luffy deck because they don't really have any answers for their 10 drop. And they only have 3 life as it is, and they don't burn them. So, like, if you can get to 10 Don, it'll always be active, your 10 cost Big Mom. So, I know Yamato can't play 10 cost Big Mom, but they have, like, a more aggressive version that can go pretty well into... I think Yamato's better into Newgate and it's better into Luffy than other versions of it. But yeah, those are the meta contenders, I think. I forgot to add this onto the video as well, but I'm gonna talk about Queen real quick, the blue yellow Queen. I'm gonna put Queen in I don't know, because like from what I understand, you have to have 4 total life and cards in hand to use her effect or his effect. Which someone told me that you didn't. So if that's true, I think I don't think it's that good. But for some reason, it's doing well in Japan, even though I don't trust anything Japan does because I feel like it's just a different meta every time. So like, I don't know. I don't know where Queen's gonna be. I think it has access to good colors, but it doesn't have access to 10 drop Big Mom. I just don't understand how, like, I understand the recursion might be good because it's like you're always getting 1 life, but like it's the same with like even cards like Black Yellow Big Mom, like they can get 1 life too. Granted, they have to discard a card, but like their condition is much easier to hit. And like I understand you can control the board with the Doflamingo, or not the Doflamingo, but with like the high cost cards on the field. But I feel like there's a lot of cards that just like are like decks like Zoro and Law. If Queen runs into it, I feel like just blow it out of the water. And I also think that like I truthfully think that like even decks like Doflamingo, like the new Doflamingo in set 4, and decks like Crocodile would just beat it too, because we can just bottom deck all of yours and then bounce it with Crocodile, and then like now you have like no cards in hand, you have to reestablish those bodies. Not with Crocodile, bounce it with the new Kaido coming out, or just like blow up your board with Blurple Kaido. I just don't think it's going to be that good personally. But I could be wrong. I put it in I don't know because I really don't know. Doflamingo, I don't know. I still think it's going to be like good into... It'll probably be still good into Newgate. It'll still probably be good into to the new Luffy coming out. But I don't think it's going to be good into any others. But I could be wrong. I'm not sure what the deck lists are going to be playing. But I don't know how they're going to fit in Red Rock. Maybe they're just going to take out the... Maybe they're just going to take out the 3,000 Worlds and just play Red Rock. But I don't know. It's just it's a tough situation to be in. It just doesn't have a lot of space to play the new cards and get the most use out of like the new good cards coming out for blue. But we'll see how it goes. Same with Luffy. I feel like Luffy, he's just a more mid-range deck and always has been than Zoro. But I think mid-range decks just aren't as good anymore because of their... Like, there's just so many decks that just outvalue like Luffy now. Like I think Doflamingo just outvalues them. I think Rebecca just outvalues them. I understand Becca can't attack like as a leader, but like being able to pop all of Luffy's stuff because they are relatively low costs for pretty much free, and then just like draw on top of that, I think it's just not going to be as good. Same with Kid. Kid just Kid just doesn't have any applications anymore. Like every set Kid's gotten, I feel like a little bit worse. Like set 1, it was broken. Set 2, it was like good, but like not as good. Set 3, it's been all right. And I think set 4 is just like what does Kid do now? It can't hide behind the wall. It definitely cannot hide behind the wall, especially with the new Rush Luffy coming out in the Commander's deck. Especially with Red Rock, especially with like the new 10 drop Kaido, with Doflamingo. There's just like it feels like Doflamingo can just not get rid of it, but can just like control the board better than Kid can now. It's just I don't understand what Kid does there could be like a very high tempo aggro version of him that plays like the starter deck X Drakes that like boosts supernovas by 1,000. That could be an option depending on the meta. But we'll see how he turns out. Same with like the starter deck kid. I don't understand how he's going to be any. I think he's going to be. I don't know. I'm interested to see what he'll do, but his effect really isn't that great to me. I think he's going to be the worst of the new captain's decks. Smoker didn't really like black. I'm going to put Lucci in here too. I'm sorry. I for some reason some of these didn't like load whenever I put him in there. But black cards, right? So Lucci and Smoker. I don't think they didn't really get a whole lot of good things in addition. Like they did get Sabo, which is good, you know, like protects your characters from being KO'd. But like this isn't like next set really isn't going to be the meta of KOing. It's going to be like bouncing and bottom decking, and then just like we probably just not even KO in general, especially because Zoro isn't going to be as relevant anymore because there's so many other decks out. So like Sabo is going to be good to help you cycle, draw 2, discard 2. Maybe you play like Cavendish or something like that. I don't know if you do or not. But yeah, there's not a lot of like great cards that are coming out for Black next set. So I don't think it's going to be as good as it is. But I could be wrong. That's why I put it in I don't know. From what I think of it though, it just doesn't have any winning matchups. Sorry, black players. And then this new crocodile I think is cool, right? So you have access to the new, so like it plays a very cool thing, right? Like it has access to the new 8 cost crocodile that gains life Dawn -2. That on your opponent's turn, if you use this effect to draw a card and trash one, you gain basically a free Dawn. You ramp a Dawn instead as active. So you can play cards like Blast Breath for free, and then you have access to cards like Charlotte Linlin from the structure deck, the 7 cost Big Mom. You have access to cards like Katakuri, and then also like you'll be able to swarm the board because pretty much all of your triggers are going to be live. Like triggers like Miss Sunday, Miss All Sunday, and like just like all the other Baroque work cards play themselves by Dawn minusing a Dawn. So even if you don't have the Dawn now, if you trigger into something and you have a Blast Breath in hand, it now becomes live to get Crocodile's effect. So it has a really cool color pool that I think could be useful. We'll see how it goes, but I'm not sure how relevant it's going to be, but I think it's a cool way of playing. I don't think it loses to like Zoro or Law, which is kind of like the meta right now. And I honestly don't think it really loses to Whitebeard either. It might lose to Whitebeard actually. We'll see how it goes. That's why I put it in I don't know. And we're going to go ahead and put this still bad category. I feel bad. I do feel bad because I like Kaido. I've played Kaido. I've won a couple tournaments with Kaido, like locals, you know. But Kaido, like purple really doesn't get anything next set, especially for like Animal Kingdoms. It's all for like blurple stuff. So like Kaido doesn't get anything good to add to his like color pool. Same with Magellan, doesn't get anything good. So I think it's still pretty bad. I know Magellan has topped like every now and then, but I just think Magellan's a bad deck, and I think it's going to be probably even worse with the new cards coming out. Kinemon. Now Kinemon is good right now, I will say. At least going into matchups like Zoro or like I don't know, like maybe Doflamingo if you play like Krieg or something like that. But I think next set it just doesn't have a place for it. Because like what is Odin gonna do? Especially like I said when I talked about like cards like getting bottom decked. I just think I don't think Kinemon's gonna do anything, to be honest with you. So I think it's gonna be pretty bad. And then we're not even gonna talk about Ivankov. Ivankov's just bad. And then Garp. Now Garp is a fan favorite, especially if you read the manga. Like Garp is really cool, but I just don't think Garp just doesn't have anything that like really gives him value. Personally, like especially because next set we don't really have any good black or red cards coming out that Garp can really use to like there's some cool Garp lists right now that actually do beat Law and Zoro but lose to like decks like Whitebeard. But I don't think that Garp really can take use of anything that is coming out in the new set. So I think by default it just gets worse. Especially because the meta changes and like its best matchups are no longer its best matchups. And guys, I forgot to talk about Vivi, but I think we're gonna put Vivi in I don't know as well, because I don't see her effect being really all that useful. So we'll see, but I don't know about Vivi. And then the dead decks, we're gonna go ahead and put him there. I like Z because of like the new killer that comes out, but like I don't know what he beats, especially because you know, the turn that he does his like big combo play with like Z, with the Kuzan, and especially if you have the starter deck killer, he pops 3 cards essentially. But like 1 Red Rock, now he's back at 8 Dawn. Sorry about that. Now he's back at 8 Dawn, and like he read like you don't really have access to his effect anymore. And if you can survive like that turn, it just feels like it just can't do anything anymore. I feel like it just gets out tempoed by like not even just Rebecca, but like gets out tempoed by like Crocodile at this point. It gets out tempoed by Newgate, especially if it runs into like decks like Katakuri or Law, especially the new starter deck Law, and even like Zoro and set 1 Law. I just don't think it is going to do anything. Sanji, I'm not even going to talk about. I did post a video on Luffy, but I think Luffy's dead next set. And Odin, he didn't really get anything either, so dead next set. And then I think I left one. Oh, Iceberg. Iceberg's dead. So this is, again, all subject to change depending on how the meta goes. But I think I did give it a pretty accurate analysis, and hopefully you guys agree with me. Let me know what you guys think. And I put a lot of work in this video. It took a lot of time. So if you guys can, like the video and subscribe to my channel, join our Discord if you want to join our Discord. That would be great. And check out our sponsor, Daily Grind TCG. Thank you.